Where to start with this one, honestly. Do you know one of the sayings I absolutely detest is when people say, you know what it is about kids nowadays? You know what it is about kids, children? They just don't know they're born. And I hate that phrase with a passion. Because here's the thing, I'd love to be a kid again. In fact, most of the time I still feel like a kid. But I would only want to be a kid if I could be one when I grew up. Like, I'd absolutely hate to be a kid nowadays. I'm probably in the minority, and this will probably be a controversial video when I say I will quite gladly hold my hands up and admit that my childhood was so much easier than what it's like now. And every older generation's done this, sort of slags the one off after. Like my generation, you never read anything positive about millennials because we are just the biggest bunch of snowflakes going before they've gone after the kids. You don't know how lucky you've got it yet. All you do is sit there and moan about everything. And you're going, yeah, because, you know, we could buy a house for $2,000, sell it for $500,000. How about you pipe down, boomers? Only joking. Love a bit of intergenerational banter. And I'm not going to say that every older generation has made it better for the next generation. But I would argue that the current older generation, including mine now, seem to be actively going out of our way. Like, we know the potential dangers if we open up the conversation about climate change. We know, and this is something that children, young children, are very conscious of. We are being told of the dangers and what we need to do, yet do nothing about it. So I feel we're the first older generation who are actively going out of our way to make it worse for the next generation. Just look at the amount of investment in young people happening at the minute. But I'll park that for the minute and we'll just focus on this, the exam sort of culture and why children are finding it so difficult. Here's the thing, can you remember at any point when you were at primary school feeling ounce of stress or pressure about anything? I mean, did you even know what the word anxiety was when you were 10? Yet we've got more children being diagnosed with stress-related conditions because of a series of tests they've got to sit at the end of year 6 that ultimately don't mean anything to them. And in my opinion, seem to be designed in a way that aren't actually testing their ability, but almost trying to catch them out. We are now dealing with the most tested generation of primary school children ever. There are only 2 year groups in England now where children aren't doing some sort of national formal assessment for the government. EYFS baseline tests, year 1 phonics, year 2 SATs, year 3 have a rest for now, year 4 times tables check, year 5 again rest up easy before the big one in year 6, and we wonder why they're stressed out. And ultimately they're not for any other, the results of these tests, they're done for no other reason than to just be a stick to bash schools with and compare schools through league tables and Ofsted reports and all the rest of it. Which means that consciously or unconsciously, that stress, that pressure will be passed on to children. And so they will feel it because they know so much is riding on it. When really, in reality, it has no bearing on them. But they've got to get results to help the school, otherwise the school's going to be in trouble. I mean, when we were at primary school, we did the 11 plus, that was it. So the fact that children are finding it difficult, it might not even be that they find it difficult. They might just be sick to the back teeth of just learning an education system that is just hell-bent on testing and weighing the pig, because the more you weigh the pig, the heavier it gets, surely. So if there's one thing I'm not going to accept is that we blame the children. And this sort of language is just ridiculous because we're dealing with a generation of kids who are resilient if you consider everything they've missed out on over the past few years through the pandemic, and actually showed better resilience than most adults and have had to adapt in so many different ways. And as an education system, rather than adapting and moving forward with everyone else, we've just gone, let's go back to what we've always done. Let's keep testing these kids to an inch of their lives, just so the government can say, look how well we're doing on these tests. Hence why we have a curriculum that's just purely focused and only values things it can measure through testing. And that's before we even talk about how majority of children are given devices at such a young age with this sort of money-rich, time-poor approach. And through education, you don't really learn anything because our curriculum doesn't really value how to educate children around digital literacy. And so there are so many issues around screen time addiction, mental health issues linked to things like social media, and we don't do anything to help them with that.